When they found my sister, she was covered in blood and her skin was extensively ulcerated. It turned out there had been a serial killing in the city, and my sister was the only person to have survived the killer's hands. The police warned me, "The killer will definitely come back for your sister. You must not be separated from her." I asked the officer, "How many people did that murderer kill?" "9. I snorted. 9, and they call him a perverted killer? That number compared to mine isn't even a fraction. When I arrived at the ICU, my sister was still on life support. A few plainclothes officers were discussing the case with grave faces. When they heard the family had arrived, the officers in charge came to brief me on the situation. But the policeman just glanced at me and froze. "Simon, what are you doing here?" I never expected to run into Lucas here. Lucas was a schoolmate of mine back then. Later we went our separate ways because our ambitions differed. When I was thriving in the gray area, Lucas, just starting out in the police force, had his eye on me. I know he had always wanted to catch me in the act, arrest me, and take me away. What else would you call a sworn enemy? I glanced toward the ICU. "Of course she's in to see my sister." Lucas gaped. "The one inside is your sister?" After a few seconds to process the information, Lucas still dutifully gave me the rundown of the basic situation. "The person who hurt your sister is a high IQ killer with antisocial personality disorder. We're pursuing him with all our resources. Your sister is the only one among the victims who survived. We suspect the murderer will come after her again. During this time, the police will post guards day and night, but your family must also stay within arm's reach." I nodded, a little curious. "How many people has that killer already murdered?" 9. I sneered. "They call that a killer?" Officer Lucas's expression darkened, and he pulled me aside. "Simon, your sister is hurt. I understand how you feel. But please cooperate with our police work. Do not take any unnecessary actions on your own, and don't cause trouble for us." I looked at him calmly. "My sister was harmed like this, and you're telling me this?" Lucas hadn't replied when a voice from the pager came through. "Officer Lucas, there's just been a violent disturbance on the 3rd floor of the hospital. Come over and take a look. Is anyone hurt?" "Everyone's hurt, but it's not the medical staff. Just now, a big brother who stood up for justice blocked those troublemakers in the stairwell and beat them up. Over 20 people, all knocked down. The stairwell is covered in blood now." "What?" "Okay, I'm coming right away." As soon as the words fell, Lucas saw my hands, stained with a little blood. He sighed. "You did it," I casually replied. "They were blocking the hallway and wouldn't let me through, so I taught them a little lesson." "Officer Lucas, you're welcome." Lucas sighed, muttering as he left, "That killer crossed you. Guess he's out of luck. This is going to cause a lot of trouble now." My sister Sarah was revived, but after she regained consciousness, she had a strong aversion to everyone, and the police could hardly extract any information about the killer. On the way to the hospital, I bought the tofu buns she loved most as a child. Actually, my relationship with Sarah wasn't that close. She was my half-sister on my father's side. My mother died young, and there was no one to look after me. I learned to fight early, and when she was a child, Sarah often saw me bloodied, fighting people in the alleyways. So she had been afraid of me since childhood. Later, my father and her mother both died in a car accident, and I became Sarah's only family in this world. Sarah was truly strange. She feared me, yet she always wanted to see me. Before the accident, she used to call me off and asking cautiously when I would be done with work so we could come home and have a meal together. She said she had learned many new dishes she could make for me, but she didn't know that I didn't want to see her at all until she had that accident. Ding! The hospital elevator doors opened, and I drew my thoughts back. At that moment, a man in a baseball cap and a black hoodie brushed past me. For an instant, I had the sudden, chilling sense of encountering one of my own kind. He too seemed to feel something and turn his head, but I couldn't make out his face, only the slight upward curve at the corner of his mouth beneath the cap. The elevator doors closed. My gut told me something had happened. I ran toward the ward where my sister was, and sure enough, a piercing scream rang out from inside. It was my sister's voice. Inside the ward, my sister was clutching her head and screaming in agony, while the medical staff trembled with fear. "What happened?" The nurse pointed to the fruit basket on the floor. She said someone claiming to be a fellow student and younger sister had just brought it. Stuffed into the basket was a folded note. Scrawled on it in a crooked hand were the words, "I'll come find you again," and beside them a clown's grinning face. I asked the nurse, "Did the person who brought the basket wear a baseball cap?" "Yes." "How did you know?" I looked out the window downstairs. The man in the baseball cap who had just brushed past me had flagged down a car, and as he walked away, he even glanced back toward us with what seemed like a taunt. My sister gradually calmed, but the tears wouldn't stop streaming down her face. She looked at me in anguish. "Brother, why did you only come now? Why did you come so late?" I was so scared. I watched my tormented sister, and finally anger welled up in my chest. "Don't be afraid. I will make anyone in this world who wants to hurt you pay 1,000-fold, 10,000-fold. Lucas arrived with his men while I was on the phone with my subordinates. If the police can't catch them, I'll deal with the problem my own way. Suddenly, Lucas snatched my phone away. Lucas, the two auxiliary police officers behind him, followed up and took out handcuffs. "Simon, someone reported you for illegal business. This is an arrest warrant. Take a look. If there's no problem, come with us." I looked at Lucas coldly, not sure what act he was putting on. "Officer Lucas, what do you mean? You're letting the killer go and arresting me?" Lucas gave me a hollow smile and glanced my way. "This is a hospital. It's not the place for talking. Simon, come with me to the station to discuss it in detail." In the interrogation room at the station, Lucas finally revealed his true intention. "Sorry, Simon. Our colleagues have already found leads on the killer and are pursuing them. They'll have them in custody soon. We asked you to come to the station because we were worried you might make a scene. Leave the arresting to us." I couldn't help but mutter in my heart that he was an idiot. "Lucas, it's putting me here that's going to make things blow up." Lucas leaned both hands on the table, eyes burning. "Violence can't solve anything. Only the law can. As long as you don't get involved, we'll definitely catch them." In the afternoon, Lucas's phone suddenly rang. He looked at me with relief. "What did I tell you? They must have caught them." But after answering, his expression changed and his voice trembled. "What did you say?" Lucas lowered his voice deliberately, but sitting next to him, I still caught the gist. The two plainclothes officers who had been hunting the killer were dead. When they were found, one was hanging upside down in the stairwell, his throat slit and drained of blood. The other had been stabbed 17 times, each wound fatal. The killer had written in their blood on the floor. The prey from last time came back to life. "I'm very angry. This is a little punishment." Hanging up the phone, Lucas's face darkened to an almost unbearable degree. I crossed my arms and looked at Lucas sternly. "Isn't Officer Lucas going to use the law to solve this? So how are you going to handle it now?" Lucas glared at me in fury. At that moment, my phone rang too. "Hello, Simon. We've tracked the killer's movements. He just killed 2 cops, and a moment ago, slit a delivery man's throat. He's changed into a delivery uniform and is heading toward the hospital." I hung up the phone and stared at Lucas. "Officer Lucas, what are you going to do now?" Lucas glanced at me irritably. "Do I have to report what I'm going to do to you?" I lowered my head and said softly, "Lucas, that's my sister. Do you know what I would do if anything happened to her?" Lucas bit his lip in frustration, turned away, and waved his hand. "Let him go." An officer beside him asked, "Officer Lucas, there are still 15 minutes before the 24-hour mark." Lucas glared and said, "Can't you see their legal team has been here for ages? Let him go." When I unclipped the handcuffs and stepped out, Lucas leaned close to my ear and patted my shoulder. "Simon, there's a red line between us you must never cross. You promised me." I shrugged off Lucas's hand. My sister is my real red line. After leaving the station, my deputy hurried over. "Simon, it's all arranged. Right now, all the brothers are rushing to the hospital, and they're all armed." "How many did you call?" 80. "If that bastard dares show his face, we'll make sure to mince him in the street." I was beside myself with irritation, wanting to stamp on his head. There are cops deployed over there, calling 80 people to march in like that. Are you trying to start a firefight? The deputy instantly broke out in a cold sweat. He immediately slapped himself twice hard. "Sorry, Simon. I didn't think it through. I'll have them stand down right away." I'll take a few of our most trusted brothers and go with you. No need, I'll go alone. Saying that, I stopped Lucas, who was about to hurry to the hospital. Officer Lucas, give me a lift. Don't worry, I won't be any trouble. Lucas rolled his eyes helplessly. Get in the car. When we got to the hospital, Lucas took a position downstairs while I got on the elevator and pressed the button for the floor where my sister was. When the elevator reached the 13th floor, it suddenly stopped. A man in black rushed in. His head was lowered, so his face was hard to make out, and there was a faint metallic scent about him. It was not a smell an ordinary person would have. The man stepped behind me, canceled the floor I had selected, and pressed B3. He drew a knife from his sleeve and held it to the back of my neck. A gloomy voice intoned, "Your life is in my hands. If you want to live, do as I say." I gave a crooked smile. You planning to use me as a hostage to threaten the cops? I was on a deal with that girl up there, but my movements got exposed unexpectedly, so now I can only run like a rat in the street. The killer was stunned. You're a cop? He suddenly drove the tip of the knife into my flesh. Don't move, or I'll kill you right now. I said softly, you're wrong. The killer said smugly, good that you know you were wrong. I told you placed the blade wrong. 2 fingers lower would have hit my carotid. Even if you severed my carotid, I'd probably have about 3 minutes before I died. And in those 3 minutes, I could kill you 10 times over. The killer asked in confusion, what did you say? I turned my head, put my hand directly on the blade, and slowly applied pressure. The blade sank into my flesh, and blood dripped from my wrist with a steady tick. But there was no hint of pain on my face. Instead, the corners of my mouth slowly lifted. I exerted even more force and snapped the knife right off. The murderer's eyes widened, frozen by the sight. Are you a SWAT officer? First, I'm not a cop. I'm the brother of the girl you tortured on the 17th floor. Second, I'm not here to arrest you. I licked the blood from my hand. I'm here to kill you. After saying that, I didn't give him another second to react. I slammed the butt of my knife violently into his Adam's apple. Caught off guard, he clutched his throat and collapsed in agony. At that moment, the elevator reached B1 and the doors opened. Several policemen saw me and the killer. They scrambled for their radios. Report, Officer Lucas. Suspect located. Suspect located. There are hostages in the elevator. The officers shouted as they lunged toward the elevator. But was I going to let them interfere? So I immediately hit the close button, keeping them out. Then I turned, coldly looking down at the killer on the floor. Now, do you believe I'm not a cop? I told you before, I don't want to arrest you. I want your life. Then I suddenly drove my foot down hard on his chest. The moment the heavy leather boot struck his chest, there was a few crisp crack sounds. A shrill, agonized scream came out of his lowly throat. I sighed. I thought you were supposed to be some ruthless sort, but I only broke a few of your ribs. Is it necessary? Then I picked up the knife from the ground, walked slowly in front of him, and waved it. Don't make a fuss. Our game has only just begun. Ding! The elevator finally reached basement level 3. When the doors opened, I dragged the killer, his hair in my grip, his body stained with blood, out with me. I fished a cigarette from my pocket, lit it without hurry, crouched at his feet, and watched him cough up blood. I heard you like thrills. I'll take you to a place in a bit where you can get an immersive experience of having your throat slit and being dismembered. How does that sound? Ha 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 ha. The murderer coughed and laughed excitedly. His previously murky eyes flared with a strange light. You'd better be able to kill me. If you can't, I'll follow your sister around for the rest of my life, loving her in the most thrilling ways possible. Before he finished speaking, I kicked his dog-like head clean off. I looked around, picked up a pair of repair pliers from the ground, not far away, and walked toward him step by step. I swung the pliers and brought them down on his elbow. The killer writhed on the ground in pain. Tell me, why did you target my sister? If you don't talk, the next thing I'll hit will be your face. I'm afraid by the time you try to speak, you won't be able to. What if I beat you to death? He choked and spat a mouthful of blood, forcing himself to roll and look at me like a dog in its death throes. Who knows? I just want to kill people. I don't like them. Do I really need a reason? The killer smiled wickedly. If you insist on a reason, it's that your sister was too kind. I only asked her for directions. She not only kindly told me where to go, when I said I couldn't find my way, she even cheerfully walked with me for a while. A kindness that's rotten to the core. So I invited her to take part in my game, my very own death game. Actually, I didn't just kill 9 people. I killed more than 20. I skinned their bodies and hung the skins in the room. Now all that's left is your sister's. Ha 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 ha. I will definitely get your sister. I nodded with understanding. I see, a death game. I'm actually in the gaming business too. Why not let me join the fun? I pulled the dagger he had just used from my pocket and, little by little, sliced off one of his fingers, skin and flesh together. But it'll be a death game between just the 2 of us, one-on-one. The murderer's screams echoed throughout the parking lot. I was pleased, since he so enjoyed watching others suffer. He surely also liked the sound of his own pain. I opened the car door, ready to toss this dying killer into the trunk, when suddenly a voice rang out. Don't move. Turn around slowly. Requesting backup. Requesting backup. Suspect spotted on basement level 3. Hostage critically injured. Lucas had arrived too. The moment he saw me, he shouted, Simon, you better stop right now. I frowned. At that moment, the killer, who had been barely alive a moment ago, suddenly tumbled out of the trunk and then scrambled quickly into the driver's seat. When I came to my senses, he had already locked all the doors and windows of the car. The police panicked at this point, and the killer started the car and rammed into Lucas's group, scattering them. He rolled down the window and stuck out that swollen, pig-headed face. You must be his brother, right? Interesting. Just wait. I will kill your sister first, and then I'll kill you. Then he slammed his foot down on the accelerator and sped off. Lucas raised his pistol and fired, but it was already too late. After a few bullets hit the wall, the assailant drove away. Lucas was so furious, he smashed his fist into the wall. Bastard! He got away again. With that, he stormed over, grabbed my collar, and shouted angrily, Simon, you promised me you wouldn't act rashly. You ruined our entire arrest plan. I pushed him away irritably. Where did you lose him? It was your team that let him get away, not me. I said that, then calmly picked up a finger still smeared with blood from the ground and shoved it into Lucas. This has DNA, fingerprints, blood. Do you think that's enough? Lucas stared wide-eyed at the severed finger. What the hell did you do? I waved my hands innocently. Here's what happened. That killer bolted out of the elevator in such a hurry that his finger got caught and chopped off by the doors. I figured I should take it to him, so I kept chasing after him. Then your lot showed up. He didn't even want the finger anymore and ran off. Lucas ground his teeth in anger. Simon, do I look retarded to you? I'll give you the finger. You give me the information you dug up. Are you coercing the police into working with people like you? I said seriously. You know I'm doing this for Sarah. As long as that bastard hands her over, whatever you want to arrest me for or sentence me for afterward, I'll cooperate. Lucas took the finger, made a brief statement for his notes, and then let me go. Back in my car, my men crowded around me, worried. Simon, are you all right? I said lightly, don't worry, this isn't my blood. The deputy lowered his head. Simon, are we waiting for the news that Lucas is going to find out next? I waved my hand. Have all the men under our command been gathered? The deputy looked up, eyes bright. Simon, you're all here. Any orders? I lit another cigarette. How are these gutter bugs so easy to find? We need to let the other bugs in the sewers bite him. The deputy scratched his head. Simon, what do you mean? I leisurely blew a smoke ring. Do we have a list of those in our city who do the dirty work, run with the mob, or are big shots in the underground industries? The deputy immediately grasped what I meant the moment he heard that. Got it. Simon, that's a brilliant move. I'll get the brothers to handle it right away. I hurriedly called him back. What's the rush? This is the method he used during the attack, plus the notes where he wrote with blood at the end. Study it well and make it authentic. Understood. Don't worry, Simon. The next morning, just as I woke up, the deputy handed a stack of photographs to me. Simon, everything's been arranged. Please take a look. I took the photo, glanced at it, and nodded in satisfaction. Loan Shark Charlie was notorious for using violence to collect debts. Those who owed him either had limbs removed or were served up with a cleaver. Everyone kept a respectful distance from him, let alone anyone who dared provoke Charlie. Last night, Charlie was stabbed in the shoulder and pinned to the wall. In his blood on the wall, someone had written, "I'll come for you again." The one running the underground casinos, Leo, has been wiping out and absorbing the local illegal gaming dens one by one. They say there are still a few lives stained on his hands. Last night, Leo's legs were stabbed 17 times, none of the wounds fatal, and on the floor, with Leo's blood, was written, "I'll come for you again." The nightclub owner, Oscar, whose thugs are all known for their ruthlessness, has kept the local entertainment spots in line for over a decade. Last night, after he had just finished with a few girls, he was stabbed once in the groin, and on his face in blood was written, "I'll come for you again." I counted them, 20 in all. The local underworld powers have all basically been notified. Next, it was time for those big shots to help me put pressure on that bastard. Lucas soon had results. Based on that severed finger, they quickly identified the suspect. So he immediately applied for a wanted notice and issued a citywide manhunt for the suspect. Looking at the face on the wanted poster, I finally learned that the killer was named Damien, who grew up in an orphanage. His social ties were therefore simple, which is why it had been so hard to find any clues about him before. I found Lucas and asked him if there had been any new developments. Lucas sighed. That bastard slips away like an eel. Even if we've identified him now, it's still hard to catch him. I smiled slightly. Officer Lucas clearly has no life experience. You know, the best way to catch an eel is to pour a pot of boiling water on it and make it jump out by itself. Lucas warned, "Simon, what are you up to now?" "Don't be nervous, Officer Lucas. I just poured a little boiling water on this loach." At that moment, a police officer ran over in a hurry. "Officer Lucas, bad news." Seeing me there, the officer leaned in close to Lucas' ear and gave a brief account. Lucas' mouth twisted with anger. He demanded loudly, "What did you do last night? Are you out of your mind?" I shrugged. "I didn't do anything wrong. I did some good. Help the people sweep away the darkness and eliminate evil." "What's the problem?" Lucas shouted. "By doing that, you'll seriously mislead the direction of our subsequent investigation." I smiled. How could that be? These people would never go to the police. To them, being bitten by a bug in a gutter isn't something you report. They're ashamed. They'll smolder with rage, hunt that bug down, and then crush it. Lucas shook his head. "But what I want is judicial judgment. If you play around like this, and in a few days he really gets hacked to mush, how am I supposed to close the case?" I lit a cigarette and said, "Don't worry. In the end, I'll make him come to you on his knees and beg you to confess." Lucas glanced at me, displeased. "Put that cigarette out. This is a police station." All right, whatever you say." Just after leaving the police station, a snitch working for me came rushing over to report. "Simon, it's terrible. Not only are all the city's police mobilized, but every gang in town has been stirred up too. They're going through the city one by one, checking everyone against the wanted poster. He can't run anywhere now, even with wings." I pressed further. "Any other news?" "Yes. Last night Charlie's men found him in a small inn. Without a word, they went at him with blades and chopped, literally severed one of his arms." I suddenly felt a bit troubled. "Mr.H, seems like it'll be hard to answer to Lucas." On the third day of the city's manhunt, an unfamiliar landline number rang on my phone. I picked up the phone, but the person on the other end said nothing. I drawled, "Damien, is that you?" After a long silence, Damien laughed. "It's me." Although I had expected the answer, the grimness on my face deepened. "Do you know what the consequences are of calling me?" Damien said coldly. "Your sister's called Sarah, right? Just wait. I will rape your sister to death, torture her until nothing of her is left, and then I will come for you." I said calmly, "If you were capable of that." On the other end of the line, Damien suddenly burst into a triumphant laugh. "Ha ha ha. Do you want to catch me? I'm telling you it's too late. I'm already on the smuggling boat. Once I get abroad to lie low, I'll find your sister and send your body parts piece by piece." I really wanted to hear you say, "Please, spare my sister. Spare my sister." He said smugly, "Too bad it's too late for that." I will be your sister's nightmare for life. I couldn't help but laugh. They say you're a high IQ criminal, but how did I find out you're an idiot? You really fell for that when I was teasing you. After saying that, I hung up the phone, then got out of the car to help my sister take out her luggage. My sister had just been discharged from the hospital, so I took her straight to my place. Seeing the dense crowd of guards downstairs, she looked at me a little frightened and said, "Brother." I still wasn't used to looking her in the eyes, so I turned aside and handed her a card. "Stay here and feel safe. Use this card to buy whatever you want. People at home are watching out for you. The rest we'll talk about when I get back." Suddenly, she grabbed my arm. "Brother, you can't go killing people." I looked back and unexpectedly found myself staring into my sister's eyes, brimming with tears. "What's wrong?" Suddenly, she flung herself into my arms. Her body trembled slightly, and her voice was choked with crying. "You promised me you'd come back safely. At the time, I almost thought I wouldn't see you again. I wanted to see you one more time, so I fought with all my might to escape. Mom and Dad are gone. You're all I have left, brother. Please don't leave me, okay?" I was silent for a long time. My sister really wasn't bright. She was foolish. I had treated her poorly my whole life, treated her like air. Why did she still consider me family? It was precisely her kindness that made her a thorn in others' eyes, and she was completely oblivious to it. What a fool. If she had really died at the hands of that killer back then, I think I would have gone mad. But I didn't say any of that out loud. I'm not good at expressing my feelings. I only sighed and, for the first time ever, reached out to pat her head. "Okay, go home early, big brother." My younger sister looked up, wiping her tears into a smile. It's a promise." After settling my sister, I called my subordinates over. "Check which of our boats has secretly gone out to sea right now." The subordinate flipped through his phone. "Simon, it's Liam's boat." I sighed. "Have Liam turn it around and come back." The subordinate nodded. "Understood." "Hold on. Throw him in the water and drag him back all the way. Soaking his wounds in seawater should feel pretty good." I smiled contentedly, squinting my eyes. I have to say, the killer does have taste. It's all our own property. He could have just told me which ship he wanted to get on, couldn't he? When I led my men to the dock, a fishing boat was slowly approaching in the distance. Liam jumped off the deck, then hauled hard on a rope tied to the stern. Simon's person is soaking in the water. I see he has a lot of wounds, so I figured we'd go slower to let the sea disinfect him a bit. As we spoke, Damien was hauled up by Liam and a few other crewmen and dumped onto the shore. We saw Damien's eyes roll back, his whole body convulsing. He was covered in wounds, one of his arms torn off, utterly unrecognizable. I planted a hard boot into his stomach. A mouthful of seawater gushed out of him. I sneered. "You sneaked onto my boat to stow away, then called to threaten me. What were you thinking?" Looking at the mass of black-clad men standing behind me, the recently awakened Damien was so startled he sat up. Who exactly are you?" One of the men at his side kicked him back down. "Why are you talking to our Simon like that?" I looked at my subordinate displeased. "Don't be so rude. Can't you see he's hurt? Take this murderer over here and get him some treatment." When he finished speaking, the two henchmen knocked the killer out with a single punch, fitted a black hood over his head, and then shoved him into the car. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself bound and gagged, dumped in the waste processing station. He shouted, "Where is this? What do you want from me?" I was sitting at the control console, operating the clamshell digger to scoop up the pile of trash beside him and hurl it into the incinerator. This is the kind of place trash like you belongs. I operated the dumpster loader again and shoveled toward him. He couldn't dodge in time and tumbled head first into the garbage. He scrambled through the pile like a rat. My patience were thin. "You missed a good chance to be freed. If you just let me scoop you into the incinerator back then, it would have hurt less. But since you're running and hiding, whatever comes next is on you." Damien gasped and looked at me. What do you want to do?" I smiled. "I want to play a little game with you. I'm not sure if you're interested." He trembled and ground his teeth. "Fuck your mother." "I won't play." I had my men slap him across the face. "I was only being polite. Who asked for your opinion? Say one more word, and I'll cut out your tongue and then have my fun with you slowly." Damien was struck so hard he saw stars, his nose gushing blood. Before he could even steady himself, my men hauled him out. I doused him with a bucket of cold water to wake him. Damien woke up, and when he looked at me and the people beside me, a rare look of fear finally appeared on his face. I took a long drag of my cigarette and said, "Don't you like treating murder like a game? I invited you here today with a few games in mind. Let's have some fun together." I told him about them with keen interest: escape rooms, bungee jumping, whack-a-mole, werewolf, ring toss, and the sandbag toss. "Which one do you want to try first?" The killer was trembling as he looked at me, shaking his head nonstop. I swung my arm and slapped him again. "Are you mute? Speak." He felt his knees with a thud before me. "Big brother, I was wrong. I really was wrong. Please spare me." Seeing him so pathetic and cowardly now, my men and I couldn't help laughing. "You call yourself a perverted killer? Can't even take a few slaps." Having said that, I swung my arm again, ready to slap his piggish face. Seeing that, he grabbed my leg. I choose. Werewolf. Don't hit me anymore." I went over and patted his cheek. "Good choice, but this werewolf game might be a little different from the ones you played before. Be mentally prepared." With that, I withdrew with my men, and then I gave a signal. The men at hand swung open the iron door beside them. 5 big wolf dogs shot out in an instant. These dogs had been starving for 3 days. Each wore a fierce look, drool hanging from their fangs. Seeing the killer inside the room, they let out low snarls, claws scraping at the floor as they prepared to lunge and tear him to pieces at any moment. The killer held his breath, eyes wide, but his legs couldn't stop trembling. "This is werewolf." I shrugged through the window. "Yeah, don't you like killing people? Go try fighting those wolf dogs. That's what they call werewolf." After saying that, my subordinate whistled, "Time to eat." In an instant, the 5 big wolfhounds lunged at the killer, barking wildly and heedless of anything. The killer was so frightened he jumped up and down inside the room. But how could his speed possibly match that of the wolfhounds? I warned, "Don't you stop. If you stop, there might not be a whole corpse left." Before I finished speaking, a horrible scream came from within. 5 minutes later, a subordinate went in and led the wolfhound out. By then, the killer's body had been mauled in many places, flesh ripped open and hanging exposed. He was clever enough to curl up on the pipe and hide. That had let him squeak by with his life, but his backside wasn't so lucky. Both cheeks had been torn to a hideous mess, still dripping blood drop by drop. I teased, "Oh, what's the matter? Has your hemorrhoid flared up?" The killer burst into tears, clinging to my leg and begging, "Big brother, I won't play the games anymore. I really won't." I grabbed his collar and ripped it. "You don't get a choice. Those victims you treated like a game and killed. Did you listen when they begged you for mercy? You stabbed my sister 6 times, so I made 6 games just for you. You're not allowed to die until you've finished them." The next game was whack-a-mole. My men threw him into a pool. Each of them stood at the edge of the pool holding a solid rubber mallet. Damien, whenever he stuck his head up, they'd beat him. Not wanting to be hit, he could only hide under the water and hold his breath. I made a point of warning, "Aim for the face mainly, don't go for the head. If anyone accidentally pounds his head in, don't blame me for being ruthless." My men, eager to get started, said, "Don't worry, boss, we'll stick to his face. Killing him would spoil the fun." The killer lifted his head and looked at the dozen or so of us, circling him with hammers. His lips were bitten and bleeding, but he was helpless. "You call this whack-a-mole?" I shrugged. "Aren't you just a stinking rat in the gutter? So as the name implies, we hit you." He stared at the hammers in our hands, terrified, and dove headfirst into the water. But he couldn't hold out long. Bubbles soon started to rise to the surface. He really couldn't hold it any longer and finally stuck his head out to get some air. I waited for the right moment. The instant he showed his head, I smashed right at his mouth, and with that one blow, his front tooth flew out. His men hurriedly applauded. "Simon is amazing. Knocked out a front tooth, add 2 extra points." We kept this up for 10 minutes, and I started to feel a bit tired. Then we made him play the games that followed. When it was time for smashing the sandbag, we locked him in a room. Then our men upstairs kept hoisting a 50-pound sandbag and hurling it at him again and again. When it was time for a ring toss, my men threw a red-hot iron hoop at him. After all that struggling, there wasn't an unbruised patch of flesh left on him. He swayed, his eyes rolled back, and he passed out. I quickly motioned for my men to carry him out and check if he was still alive. But who could have expected this bastard to keep his nature? His fainting was an act. He had a small knife hidden in his shoe. When my man went to drag him, he shoved the knife into him twice, dropping him to the ground, then took the chance to sprint away. How could I possibly give him that chance? I had already bolted the front door. I grabbed the baseball bat and knocked him flat with a single swing. Still got the energy to run? I think you're just itching to go bungee jumping. I waved, and a few of the guys came over, tied his feet, then carried him up to the rooftop. He looked at the 3-story building and was so scared he wet himself. "Big brother, I'm not running anymore. I don't want to bungee jump." I said softly, "People's bungee jumps are dozens of stories high. This is only 3 stories. What are you afraid of?" The culprit shook his head like a rattle. "I wouldn't do it even for 1 floor. I was wrong. Big brother, please just let me go like a fart, okay?" I shook my head. "You left my sister a message saying you wouldn't let her go. I'm coming to play with you willingly now. How can you still be unsatisfied?" "Oh, I forgot to tell you, bungee cords are usually elastic. I couldn't find one, so I used hemp rope instead." The killer swallowed and said, "What do you mean?" I gave him a gentle shove downward. "The difference is, if the rope has no elasticity, your legs will be snapped straight off. That would be good. Then you could never run away again." No sooner had I finished speaking than there came a crack from beneath us, the sound of joints dislocating. Then a piercing, agonized scream tore through the air. When his men carried him back, his whole body was convulsing, and foam kept spilling from his mouth. I ordered him taken into a room and locked up. "Now you can play escape room. I put 3 locks on the outside. Anyway, with your arms and legs broken, if you can get out, it'll be a real feat." By then the killer knew he was doomed. He spat at me. "Damn you, running into you is my bad luck. I confess, just give me a quick death." I looked at him with contempt. "If you want a quick death, turn yourself in. Lucas is searching the whole world for you. He can give you your quick death. After you're sentenced to death, 3 injections, and it's over. It's like euthanasia. How pleasant." He laughed like a madman. "I have a psychiatric certificate. Can't be sentenced to death." I looked at him, still shameless and boastful. An instant fury shot straight up to my skull. I grabbed a machete from beside me and pressed it against his neck. "Do I need to check your damn certificate to sentence you to death? I have 10,000 ways to make you evaporate from this world, vanish without even a trace." No sooner had I spoken than a flurry of hurried banging and smashing came from outside the big iron gate. Before long, one of my men came running in, panting, "Simon, bad news. Charlie has brought a whole crew and surrounded our place." "What do we do?" I hadn't even had time to speak when the killer suddenly threw his head back and laughed. "Ha ha ha, it's finally come. Do you know why I kept at it until now? Because I knew someone would come for your life." Seeing me look at him puzzled, the killer grew even more triumphant. "You thought by imitating me, you'd provoke those gangsters into helping you find me. But don't forget, I'm not stupid either. The day you want to stab that Charlie fool, I slipped in and left a note. They've surely found it and come to chop you up." Ha ha ha. I unhurriedly took a slip of paper from my pocket and handed it to him. "Open your beady little eyes and see if it's this one." His pupils jolted and he collapsed to the ground. "Teach this. How could this be in your hand?" I opened the slip and read aloud. "Simon sent someone to kill you using my method." That's hilarious. Really think you're some brilliant criminal out of a novel? Leaving a note? Do you know I could use this very paper to take your miserable life? He cried out in terror. What do you mean by that? The corner of my mouth lifted slightly. I folded the note, tore off a piece, and slid the remaining part toward him. I'll kill you my way. He froze in an instant, every hair on his head standing on end. What if I open the door now and let Charlie in to give him this note? What do you think he'll do? My men pressed against my ear at that moment. Simon, Charlie has already been let in. From down the hallway came Charlie shouting and cursing heard from afar. Brother, that's not fair of you. I heard you found that bastard. Why didn't you tell me? I have to cut him up with my own hands. Just as I was about to open the door, Damien suddenly collapsed to his knees with a thud, grabbed my boot, and began frantically licking it. Simon, I'm begging you for one thing. Call the police for me. I'll surrender. I want the injection of the death penalty. Please, don't mess with me. Don't hand me over to Charlie. Hurry and call the police. I'll confess and won't ask for leniency. Give me the death sentence now. My men all looked at him with contempt, each of them itching to cut him down right then. I stood up and dialed Lucas's number. Officer Lucas, I found that bastard at Scrapyard. After a brief, civil conversation, he told me to contact you. Said he wants to turn himself in. Send someone over. About 20 minutes later, the wailing sirens grew nearer and nearer. The killer, moved to tears as if seeing his savior, cried out, "They're finally here. The rule of law is wonderful. I feel so safe." I clear my throat. Buddy, you seem to be misunderstanding. They're here to arrest you and send you to the gallows, not to take you out for a feast. The killer collapsed to the ground, his eyes dull as he stared at the sky, murmuring, "Death sentence would be great. Relief at last. The injection doesn't even hurt. If I'd known, I should have turned myself in long ago to accept death. Then I wouldn't have had to endure all this." I couldn't help it and turned my head with a sigh. You really live like garbage, don't you? As I spoke, Lucas burst in with a squad of SWAT officers. At the sight of Lucas, the killer's eyes brimmed with tears. Officer Lucas, you're finally here. I surrender. I'll confess. Arrest me. Sentence me. Please." As he spoke, he twisted his body and crawled over toward Lucas. Lucas had never seen anything like it and looked at me in disbelief. "What's going on?" I explained, "Here's the thing. Our group regularly organizes charity and volunteer work. This time I led company employees to the landfill to do waste sorting, and we found him. I said we should call 120 for an ambulance, but he absolutely refused. He insisted I call 911 to report it to the police. Maybe he felt he was dying and didn't want to discuss the medical staff." Lucas covered his face and sighed. Okay, so what about the injuries on his body?" I smiled slightly and said, "He said he fell himself." The policeman fell silent. After Lucas shanded that bastard into the car, he pulled me aside, lit 2 cigarettes, and handed one to me. Lucas looked at me. "Remember our first case when we just graduated from the police academy and joined the homicide unit?" I lowered my head. "I remember. A 12-year-old girl, stabbed 11 times. Lucas sighed. "During the arrest, our mentor got stabbed by that bastard and just died so needlessly. But in the end, the killer was declared insane, and nothing came of it. Since then, you resigned and started walking on the opposite side of me. You told me justice must be pursued in your own way. So why are you insisting that I catch him this time?" I took my sister's photo out of my wallet, eyes reddening. When we were little, she was bullied. I rushed over and beat those kids half to death. I thought she'd be happy when she came home, but she cried. I asked why, and she countered, "Brother, can you protect me for my whole life? What will I do when you're not around and they bully me?" I didn't think much of it then, until this time when my sister got hurt. Looking at her lying in the ICU, that question she asked years ago suddenly stabbed into my heart like a sharp knife. I became afraid. I really can't protect her forever, but the police can. So this time I have to make that bastard face the law to make my sister believe that in the future, whether I'm by her side or not, she will be safe. I patted Lucas's shoulder. "Consider this my last act of stubbornness. I walk in the dark, you walk in the light. We end up at the same place." Lucas brushed my hand away, disgust on his face. "Get out. Who says we're going to the same place? Simon, if you act like this again, I will definitely make sure you learn your lesson." I waved my hand. All right, I'm wrong." Lucas escorted Damien away. Watching Lucas's departing back, I finally felt a sense of release. 2 months later, Damien was sentenced to death, and the sentence was carried out immediately. On the day he was executed, I picked my sister up and pointed out to her the row upon row of police cars flashing their sirens. "Sarah, the question you asked me back then, today I can answer it. I truly can't watch over you forever, but don't be afraid. There are laws, there are police, you won't have to face this kind of thing again." My younger sister looked at me, nodded, and at last showed a rare smile. "Mm,